Let's talk now about Mick Cronin. Mick Cronin is another one who's being rumored for the Villanova job. I got to be honest, when I first heard about this, I thought, there's no way, right? We're not going to lose Mick Cronin. And it would be a downside to lose Mick Cronin, right? Mick Cronin press conferences are my favorite press conferences, whether it's post game, whether it's preview, whatever it might be. This guy, I've always loved watching his post game press conferences, and I try to watch every single post game. I watch most preview press conferences, but I try to watch every single post game press conference. Especially, I feel like you kind of get to know the coaches better. At least the Big Ten, I do. Every other conference, I don't really catch as much, just because I am so focused on the Big Ten. But it is really really cool to me to hear Mick Cronin, to hear his kind of attitude and the way he treats the media and everything else. And it's just you just I don't even know if I can explain it. You just have to go listen to a Mick Cronin press conference. But if Mick Cronin does leave, there is an upside, because Chris Mack is being rumored to take the Xavier job with Sean Miller out there. Could you imagine a conference with Dan Hurley, Mick Cronin, and Chris Mack? It would be bald dude after bald dude every single night. It would be absolutely amazing. So much fun to watch. I would love to see those guys duking it out with one another. Would be super cool and super entertaining and fun. So really, really would look forward to that. As far as I'm concerned, Mick Cronin and Villanova. I think when you look at the options here, there's some different scenarios that kind of make the timing of it seem right. Now, right now, there's a rumor around the Villanova fan base that Tuesday is going to be the announcement for the new head coach. That could be Mick Cronin, I suppose, but sounds like if that happens, it's more the Richard Pitino route. If it doesn't happen by Wednesday, I don't think it's Richard Pitino. But then again, I also don't think it's Mick Cronin, right? There is Trilly Donovan out there saying that it's a no for Porter Moser now, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be Kevin Willard, because I think he's going to sign his extension with Maryland. So this whole Villanova situation is pretty interesting to try and figure out how it's going to play out. I guess if we get to Wednesday, Thursday, probably Thursday, and nobody has taken this job yet, I guess they have their sights set on Kevin Willard. Are they going to be able to outpay Kevin Willard for that job? I don't see that happening. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, Villanova, they care a lot about their basketball program. So could they go in after they're tired of some time with Kyle Neptune, come in, get a guy like Kevin Willard, and really have him start recruiting for them, bringing guys from the portal, and get them back to the NCAA tournament. You already ended the drought for Maryland with their Sweet 16. So can you get Villanova out of their 3-year drought of not making the NCAA tournament? Can Mick Cronin do it? Well, I think it's important to look at some of the reasons why Mick Cronin would stay and some of the reasons why Mick Cronin would go. So let's start with the stay. Why would Mick Cronin stay at UCLA? Mick Cronin worked really, really hard to improve the NIL at UCLA. That was something that he worked really hard to do. That was something that he endured for an entire season. I believe they went 16-17 last year. He endured that. He got the NIL to be better. It'd be really hard to walk away from a job after you just did that much to make the situation better. Number two, the Big Ten is a better, more prestigious conference. Look, we've talked about it. There are going to be dudes that are not made up for this conference. There are going to be dudes who are too scared to coach in this conference. It's just going to happen. It is what it is, because the conference is so competitive and the conference is so good. Mick Cronin does not strike me as one of those guys. Mick Cronin strikes me as the type of coach who wants to go up against the best day in and day out, and he is going to embrace that kind of competition and that kind of work ethic from him and his team. I don't think Mick Cronin's the type of guy that gets into the Big Ten and says, "Yeah, I think I'll go. I guess I'll go to the Big East now because I feel better about that." I don't think it's going to happen. I think Mick Cronin is the type of guy who wants to stay in the Big Ten and who wants to compete against the best, game in and game out. There's also the family side of things. If you know very much about Mick Cronin, when he moved from Cincinnati to UCLA, there was some family affinity there with his daughter Sammy Cronin. I mean, it's kind of a cute story. Sammy Cronin had her own show at one point. That was really cute. So I mean, this whole situation very very cute. Mick Cronin doing a lot of really cool things with his daughter, and wanted to raise his daughter in California, felt like that would be a good place to raise her and it would be fun and everything else. And Mick Cronin, as a boy, always wanted to move to California, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on there that kind of pulls him to that area. Even though he's not from there, he's from Cincinnati, right? It was enough to pull him away from Cincinnati to UCLA. That seems pretty like a pretty big deal to me. In addition to that, he's familiar with the recruiting grounds now. He's recruited there for years before he went out to UCLA. Now he's been there for years. He's continuing to recruit the Southern California area, the West Coast, all that stuff. So he's getting used to it. And then also the big kicker is Villanova willing to pay a $16 million buyout. Now that does reduce to I think about $12 million after the 31st. So maybe that could be, some of the waiting time here. I mean, if it gets up to the 31st, Mick Cronin might be the guy at Villanova because it's going to go down $4 million there. But as far as I'm concerned, even $12 million at Villanova, not saying they're cheap by any means. Like they really care about their basketball program. That's one of the reasons why this is. We'll get to why Mick Cronin would go here in a second. We'll talk about that, but Villanova is a place that really cares about their basketball program. I don't believe they paid very much to pay the buyout for Kyle Neptune. They could find themselves with some more money, but overall, $16 million. That seems like a lot to buy a coach out of. Maybe they do it, but I don't think they would. Why would Mick Cronin go? Why would Mick Cronin leave UCLA to go over to Villanova? Well, number one, he coached in Cincinnati when Cincinnati was in the Big East. Cincinnati obviously moved from the Big East to the AAC. Then they moved to the Big 12. After that, some people don't remember, but Mick Cronin was there when Cincinnati was in the Big East. So they have that. He has that familiarity with that conference, albeit it was about 20 years ago. He still has that familiarity with that conference. He is very frustrated and very open about the frustration of Big Ten travel. Doesn't like it for him, doesn't like it for his guys. He truly does believe that UCLA is losing games because of the travel. He doesn't like to blame it on the travel because he doesn't want to sound like a baby. It's another thing that's kind of going on in his press conferences right now. But at the end of the day, you can understand going from a conference that is national, where UCLA is traveling all the way across the country playing Rutgers, that you might say, yeah, I'd rather play in the conference that has, the Pennsylvania school and the Connecticut school and the New York school, kind of all in that one eastern area there. It might be beneficial for him. And, I mean, he's complained about it a lot. So if you're saying, like, why would he leave a job for that? He really hates the travel that the Big Ten puts him in. So maybe that's it. The Villanova does have more consistent resources than UCLA. That's kind of the flip side of how hard he worked for the NIL. Does he want to keep working that hard? Does he want to keep doing that, or does he just want to coach ball? Mick Cronin does strike me as the type of guy that just wants to coach ball. Doesn't really want to mess around with the NIL, the payments, everything else, the haggling with players, all that jumbo that he doesn't want to mess with. He strikes me as the type of guy that just wants to coach ball. He doesn't want to have to be this major fundraiser that everything is reliant on. He would like to go to a school where they fundraise on their own. He's going to get revenue sharing, and he's going to get NIL to boot as well. A couple more. We talked about Mick Cronin's daughter and him moving to California for it. Mick Cronin's daughter is 18. She's going to college soon. She's going to college here next semester, I believe. And if she decides, or if she has already decided, we don't know. I wasn't able to find anything on it, but if she has decided she wants to go back home to, say, a Penn State, a Pitt, a Cincinnati, somewhere over there on the eastern side or in the Midwest, Mick Cronin might just want to follow her, and be close to her. Now, I don't know how much time you're going to be able to spend with your daughter, but Chris Collins, we heard the rumblings about him possibly leaving Northwestern. One of the reasons why was because his son had graduated and his son was no longer an assistant on the Northwestern basketball team. Now, Mick Cronin might still leave at some point, but he didn't leave this year, and mainly because he got more resources and got a contract extension himself. And then finally, UCLA is a job where if you don't win big, if you don't make the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight, fans can get restless there. That is the program that has 11 national championships. Fans can get restless. Fans can want guys gone. I've already seen on the message boards people calling for Mick Cronin to be fired after the season. I think that's crazy, but that's fandom, that's expectation. And if you've got guys that are already saying that now, what if Mick Cronin comes back next year, doesn't have the NIL resources, and they go 16-17 again? I don't think that's going to happen. I think they got too many guys coming back. But if they lose some of those guys because they don't have the NIL anymore, could he leave knowing that the NIL might not be in as stable of a place of what they might need? So my final verdict, my final thought is I think Mick Cronin stays. I think Mick Cronin is a guy who's going to stay at UCLA. I think his daughter probably goes to school somewhere there in California, sticks around him, but I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Comment. What are your thoughts on Mick Cronin? What are your thoughts on the entire situation? What are your thoughts on the Villanova job, right? You think it's going to be Richard Pitino? You think it's going to be somebody else? You disagree with Trilly? You think it's going to be Porter Moser? Would love to know your thoughts.